Hello students, welcome to the second lecture session of cylinder block. Myself Shankar Ghosh, Assistant Professor of Automobile Engineering Department at Dr. Sudhir Chandra Sur Degree Engineering College under the JIS group. Today we'll continue the cylinder block, which is the part 2 or second part. This is a module number 2 and title is constructional features, functions and working of the automobile engine components. And this topic is basically taken from the automobile engine, which is the diploma second year third sem subjects. So students, before starting the today's class, on the previous class of this cylinder block, we discussed about the cylinder block, its and the cylinder liner. Now today we will continue this. Today we will continue this cylinder block. So students, let's start the today's class on cylinder block part 2. So students, we are already knowing about the cylinder liner. Now coming to the types of cylinder liner. There are basically two types of cylinder liner or the slips. One is dry liner and another is wet liner. So here, as you can see in this picture, this one is the dry liner and this one is the wet liner. In the dry liner, this one is the cylinder liner and this one is the cooling passages. So the cooling passages or water is separated from this cylinder liner. That's why this liner is called as the dry liner, and this one, and here you can see there, this is the coolant passage and this one is the liner. So there is, as because there is no difference, there's no partition in between the line, in between this liner and the coolant passages. So that is why this one is the wet liner. So they are for the design purpose. According to the design purpose, this cylinder liner or the slips are divided into two ways. One is dry liner and another one is the wet liner. And now, students, now coming to the discussion on starting the now start with the dry. Dry liners are made in a shape of a barrel. The dry liners are made in the shape of a barrel. Sorry, shape of a barrel, and it having a flange at the top, and the flange keeps the liner in position in the cylinder block. Sorry. So students, the dry liners are made in in the shape of a barrel and having a flange at the top, and the flange keeps in the liner in position in the cylinder block. The liner fits accurately in the cylinder. The liner fits accurately in the cylinder, and the perfect contact of the liners with the cylinder block. The perfect contact of the liner with the cylinder block is necessary for the effective cooling of the liner, and also the gas pressure, piston thrust and impact loading during the combustion are resisted by the combined thickness of the liner and the cylinder. So as the perfect contact of the liner, as the perfect contact of the liner with the cylinder block is necessary for the effective cooling of the liner, the gas pressure, piston thrust, and impact loading during the combustion resist are resist by the combined thickness of the liner and the cylinder. So therefore the dry liners are thinner. The dry liners are thinner, and it's having the wall thickness vary, and it's having the wall thickness varying from 1.5 millimeter, varying from 1.5 millimeter to 3 millimeter, and these are used and these are used mostly for the reconditioning worn liner, and these are mostly used for the reconditioning one liner, and the dry liners are not in different contact with the not the direct contact with the cooling water. So these are the basically dry liners. Coming to the wet liner, a wet liner is so called because the cooling water comes in contact with the liner. The water the cooling water comes in contact with the liner, and this liner is provided with a flange, and the liner is provided with a flange at the top, and which fits into the groove made in the cylinder block, and this is basically fits. The liner is provided with the flange at the top, and this is fitted, and it is fitted into the groove which is made in the cylinder block. And to stop the leakage of cooling water, and to stop the leakage of the cooling water into the crankcase, the lower end of the wet liner, the lower end of the wet liner is sealed with the help of the sealing ring or packing ring. As the wet liner has to withstand the has as the wet liner has to withstand the gas pressure, thrust, and the impact loading, the wall thickness of the liners is increased. The wall thickness of the liners is increased, and it is made more than that of the dry liner. It is made more than that of the dry liner. So generally the wall thickness of the wet liner ranges from, so here the wall thickness of the wet liners ranges from 3 millimeter to 6 millimeter, and the outside of the liner is coated. The outside of the liner is coated with the aluminium so that it is protected from the rust, and the wet liner is better cooled than the dry liner, and it is easy to removable when it is worn out, or damaged. Now, coming to the comparison of the dry and the wet liner. The A wet liner can be easily replaced. A wet liner can be easily replaced, whereas a dry liner, sorry, whereas a dry liner require the special tools because it is a tight fitted in the cylinder block. Number 2 is a wet liner is properly cooled. A wet liner is properly cooled as it comes in direct contact with the cooling water, whereas a dry liner does not come whereas a dry liner does not come in direct contact with the cooling water, and hence the working temperature of a dry liner is more than a wet liner. So as students, as the wet liner is properly cooled as it comes in the direct contact with the cooling water, whereas the dry liner does not come in the direct contact with the cooling water, so that the working temperature of the dry liner is more than the wet liner. And number 3, a liner needs a leak-proof joints. A wet liner needs a leak-proof joint so that the cooling water does not leak into the crankcase, where a dry liner has no such requirement. Number 4, a wet liner does not require accurate finishing of the outside, where a dry liner needs the accurate finishing. Number 5, finishing may be completed in a wet liner before assembly, whereas a dry liner needs finishing after the assembly. So finishing may be the complete in the wet liner assembly before, whereas the dry liner needs finishing after assembly. So these are the basic difference of the dry liner and the wet liner. Now coming to the crankcase. The crankcase supports the individual main journal and bearing of the crankshaft, and it also maintains the alignment of the journal axis of rotation as they are subjected to rotary and reciprocating inertia forces and the periodic torque impulses. So students, here the crankcase basically supports the individual main journal. Crankcase basically supports the individual main journal and the bearing of the crankshaft, and it also maintains the alignment of the journal axis of the rotation as they are subjected to rotary or the reciprocating inertia forces and the periodic torque impulses. A tunnel roof construction of the crankcase is partitioned off by bulkhead crossroads which which mount and support the crankshaft. Sorry, which mount and support the crankshaft, main journal and the bearing. And this circular this semicircular ceiling construction with spaced out crossed wave with spaced out cross waves offer a very stiff and relatively light crankcase structure. So students, basically crankcase is used to support the individual main journals and the bearing of the crankshaft, and it is also used to maintain the alignment of the journal axis of rotation as they are subjected to rotary and the reciprocating inertia forces, and it is also maintain the periodic torque impulses. So for this crankcase is a tunnel loop construction which is partition of a bulkhead crossway which is mount and support the crankshaft, journal and the bearing. This semicircular type ceiling construction with the spaced out cross waves basically offers a very stiff and relatively light crankcase structure. So the crankcase walls from the skirt over the underslung crankshaft. Crankcase wall the crankcase walls from a skirt over the underslung crankshaft, and the skirt is either separately attached to the cylinder blocks and lowered deck or merged into it as integral casting, and ribs are run from the bottom of the cylinder block diagonally and towards the main bearing housing for additional supports to the crossway. In some of aluminium alloy, integral cylinder block and the crankcases stiffening ribs are cast longitudinally and the vertically downward of the outside wall of the block and the crankcase. The crankcase walls are flanged at the bottom to strengthen the casing and to attach the sump. To strengthening the casing and attached the sump. Next is cylinder head. So then as you can see in this picture, this is a picture of the cylinder head. The cylinder head is a casting which is bolted on the top of the cylinder block. Cylinder head is a casting which is bolted to the top of the cylinder block. It houses the inlet and the exhaust poppet valves. It houses the spark plug or the injector location holes. It forms the upper face of the combustion chamber, and it takes the combustion pressure reaction. The coolant passages, cavities, intake and the exhaust ports, lubricating passages and the spark plug or the injector bosses are also located within the head casting. The cylinder head is cylinder head is detachable for the easy access to the valve and the piston top, and to facilitate the machine of the cylinder bore, combustion chamber and the valve port. The mating faces of the cylinder head and the block. The mating faces of the cylinder head and the block are grounded flat so that a sandwich gasket is squeezed in between them. The head is bolted down, forming a liquid tight and the gas tight joint. The cylinder head is placed on the top deck of the cylinder block, and both are joined together by either studs or the set bolts. When the cylinder head is screwed down to the block, it is in compression and therefore the studs or the set bolts are in tension. And the recommended material for the studs or the set bolts is manganese molybdenum steel, which having a safe working stress of 640 Newton per square millimeter. Now coming to the cylinder head material. Cylinder head material should be readily cast with the complicated internal shapes. The material should be strong enough in compression and it is able to operate continuously under the fluctuating gas pressure and the temperature when fixed rigidly to the cylinder blocks by the bolts or the studs. Although the gas pressure loads are not excessive for the available market, but thermal pressures are developed across the cylinder head, eventually casting distortion or the even cracks in the critical area which is exposed to the heat of the combustion. The ideal cylinder head material should limit to the temperature of the surface so that lubrication remains effective. Combustible petrol and the air mixture which do not overheat to the cause detonation, hot spot and the head spot, and that promote the pre-ignition are not formed, and it is high cyclic thermal stresses which are not developed. The material generally used are grey cast iron and the aluminium alloy. The common cylinder head cast iron meets most of the requirements such as cheapness, good castabilities, good machinability, good corrosion resistance, adequate rigidity, strength and the hardness and low thermal expansion. But it has the disadvantage of high weight and the low thermal conductivity. The aluminum alloy head on the other end has to be used, which has half the weight of the equivalent cast iron heads. It also has a thermal conductivity which is 3 times better. It also has a thermal conductivity which is 3 times better than that of the cast iron, and due to which the possibility of the thermal distortion and it is reduced, and the head cooling system permits the use of the higher compression ratios. The disadvantages of the aluminum alloy are the disadvantages of the aluminum alloy are that it is more expensive, its corrosion resistance is inferior to cast iron, it is much softer than the cast iron, and it has a high thermal expansion with the causes fitting between the aluminum alloy head and the cast iron cylinder block during the starting and stopping of the engine, so that the separate wear resisting valve seats and the guide inserts become separate. Oil sump or the oil pan. The oil sump is attached to the bottom of the cylinder, which is underneath the crankcase. The function of the sumps are: number one, to store the engine's lubricating oil for circulation with the lubrication system. Number two, to collect the oil. Number two, to collect the oil and draining from the sides of the crankcase valve, and if ejects directly from the journal of bearing. Number three, to provide a centralized storage. To provide a centralized storage area for any containments like liquid fuel, water combustion products, blow past the piston ring and the worn metal particle. Number four, to provide a short recovery period for the hot, churned up and possibly aerated oil before it is recirculated in the lubrication system. Number five is to provide some intercooling between the hot oil inside and the airstream outside. The oil sump may be made from the single seat steel casing, or it may be an aluminum alloy casting with the cooling fin and strengthening ribs. A soft, flexible gasket is used in between to seal the joint and is tightened around the set screw. The sump generally has a shallow downward slope at one end, and which changes into a relatively deep but narrow walled reservoir at the other end. The incoming oil flow towards the depth end where it submerged the pickup pipe and the strainer of the lubrication system. The drain plug is located at the lowest level in the sump for easy drainage of used oil. Generally, the sump is not designed to add to crankcase rigidity, except in some transverse E-front wheel drive engine. Next is the gasket. Gaskets or the static seals are used between the attaching engine parts to seal the joints for preventing either internal or the external leakage. A gasket must withstand the higher pressure and the temperature of the engine. So therefore the gaskets must be impermeable to the fluid in contact. This is the number one. Number two, it must conform to any existing surface imperfections. Number 3, it must be resilient to maintain the sealing pressure even when the main joints are slightly loosened as a result of temperature changes or vibration. Number 4, it must be resistant to all accepted changes in its environment due to the temperature, pressure variation and the age. And number 5 is it must be stable, and it must be stable under the compression condition, avoiding the excessive setting. The essential consideration of the gaskets are a adequate shear and the wheel's tensile strength, particularly to use with a narrow section, adequate provision for the cooling of the mating surface, especially the cylinder head, and for minimizing the effect of the differential thermal expansion. Number 3, that is the maintenance of a gasket thickness tolerance. And number 4, that is a gasket of simple construction, easy to assemble and which is not readily damaged. The gasket thickness and the hardness must be chosen to match the degree of unevenness of either joint's face due to the large tolerance, distortion, surface roughness or other factors such as the leak of the uniformity, a bolt or stud loading. So for this reason we are use the gasketing gaskets. The following gaskets are commonly used in the automobile engines. Those are copper asbestos gasket, steel asbestos gasket, steel asbestos copper gasket, single steel rigid or corrugated gasket, stainless steel gasket, asbestos coated steel sheet with a separate steel bending around both, laminated steel and graphited asbestos sheet with form steel bore head, asbestos impregnated rubber bonded with a reinforced foil bed, and last not the least, that is asbestos or steel where reinforced tissue. So these are the various kinds of gaskets which is used in this automobile engine. Now coming to the cylinder block material. The cylinder blocks are cast in one piece from grey iron or the iron alloy which is containing the nickel or chromium for high strength and the wear resistance. Some cylinder blocks are cast from a silicon aluminum alloy. The cylinder block is a complicated casting. The cylinder blocks are materially should have the adequate strength and rigidity in compression, bending and the torsion. This is necessary to resist the gas pressure loads and also for the components which converts the reciprocating motion of the individual piston into the single motoring motion, and it should have good aversion and torsion resistance in addition to good casting machinability characteristics, and it should also have the reliability, low density and the high thermal conductivity. Cast iron cylinder blocks which provide the following advantages. It goes showing the good casting property. Free graphite helps to give good wearing property. The cylinder bore, for example, it can be machined directly in the cast iron. Number 3, good sound damping property, and number 4 is tapped hole are less easily stripped than the aluminium. Aluminum cylinder blocks which provide the following advantage. Those are lighter in weight, attractive appearance, easier machine during the production, and number 4 is the better heat dissipation. So students, here in this second class, which is the part 2 of the cylinder block, we covered the various kinds of cylinder liner and their comparison. Then we discussed about the cylinder head, oil sum and their materials, and after all of this, we discussed about the material which is used in the cylinder block. So the next class we'll discuss another topic. So still then, stay at home and stay safe. Thank you. Thank you so much, class.